So I heard recording in progress, so I think that means that we're good to go. So once again, welcome, Meet Your Match, working with vendors. So before we really get started in truth, I did just want to do a land acknowledgement. So the offices of eCampus Ontario are located in downtown Toronto, and they are within the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Please take a moment to consider the lands and the caretakers of the lands and the waters on which you are situated. I know we're all coming in from very different places, so if you would like to take a moment or share your own land acknowledgement in the chat, please feel free to do so. So, all that said, I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen because the stuff I have to say is not nearly as important as our panelists and what they're going to share. So we're joined by four incredible people here today. So we've got Garima Gupta, who is the CEO of Artha Learning. And she's joined by Leo Heck, who is a librarian here at eCampus Ontario. They worked together to create Mastering Open Ed, which is a train-the-trainer approach to open education. We're also joined by Cathy Pillar and Dr. Jeff Nagge, who are kind of doing revolutionary stuff with AI and pharmacy. So Cathy is here from Ametros Learning, and Dr. Jeff Nagge is with the University of Waterloo's School of Pharmacy. So I will pass it off to them to do their introductions. We'll do that. We'll go through a few questions that we have prepared for our panelists, and then that'll take about half an hour. And then again, 5 to 10 minutes at the end for any questions. So all that said, I will pass it off to Garima, who is going to introduce herself and her project.
Awesome. Thank you, Suri. And hello and welcome, everyone. Such a fun thing to be. Well, happy Valentine's Day and perfect topic to choose for today. To introduce us, I am the founder CEO of Artha Learning. Artha actually means meaning. So we build this company around building meaningful learning experiences for the learners. We are a full-service learning design firm. We do everything from interactive e-learning modules to building courses on LMSs such as D2L and Moodle, animated videos, ebooks, all of that. And we do this end-to-end. So our instructional designers work with instructors, subject matter experts to bring their vision to reality. And we are fortunate, actually, to have worked on a number of projects with eCampus, with Western, McMaster, York University, Humber-Hurst, and for this project, eCampus itself, on the project of building Mastering Open Ed. So Mastering Open Ed, the project we're going to mostly talk about today, is quite interesting. We were Leo reached out and we were asked to build 5 courses on mastering open education and one resource kit. And we were to build that in English and French, in D2L and Pressbooks, so within 2 months. So nothing extraordinary about that. So we'll share a lot more about that as we go along. A little bit more about us. Our work with eCampus is something really, really, special to us. So very happy to talk about our process and how we work with different teams. Our work with Western University, in fact, went on to win the Gold Award for Best University Project with Brandon Hall. So that's something we're very proud of. The team is all Canadian in different parts of Canada. So we have LMS specialists, we have Francophone instructional designers, multimedia designers, software engineers, project managers, and I have the unique privilege of leading them. And usually we have 1 or 2 eCampus projects running in the team. It has been a great partnership. So that's just, I guess, a little bit about us. And I'll pass it on to Leo.
Hi, thanks, Garima. Yeah, so my name is Leo Heck. I'm a librarian here at eCampus Ontario, and I'm leading the OER Rangers program, where we're working on capacity building and professional development for institutions in Ontario. And part of this program involved training on OER. So we looked for a vendor, and we were glad we found Artha to help creating these training materials on OER as a whole, and also the specific parts, part of it, such as authoring tools. And this was a very big endeavor, as Garima mentions. And we had 5 subject matter experts working with us, and it was bilingual by design in D2L and also in Pressbook. So there was a lot of complexities there. So I'm happy to share some information of how things went with all of you today. So let me pass it on now to Cathy.
Awesome. You guys hear me okay? Great. Well, I agree. This is a great topic, and we're so happy to be here and talk. So my name is Cathy Pillar. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Ametros Learning. Very quickly, Ametros, we're an ed tech company. We use AI to help educators transform the way they teach and assess. We have an AI-powered teaching and assessment platform, and on that platform, we build scenario-based learning modules with the intention of increasing learner engagement, facilitating this idea of learning by doing, or the application of knowledge, and focus on developing essential skills along the way. So I'm very excited to introduce my partner in crime, Jeff Nagge, and I'd love Jeff to scope the project that we took on, because it was his course and his situation, and the challenge that he presented to us that led us to our project. I'm then going to show you, after Jeff speaks, a quick video that describes in some detail the project that we took on. So over to you, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you, Cathy. Thank you, Siri, for the invitation to participate today. And also on behalf of my wife, I'd like to thank you for reminding me it's Valentine's Day. I still have a little bit of time before I get home. So, my name is Jeff Nagge. I'm a clinical associate professor at the School of Pharmacy at the University of Waterloo. And I was teaching a course for a number of years called the Management of Oral Anticoagulation Therapy, since 2007, actually. And then management of oral anticoagulant therapy we offer it as an undergraduate elective, but also as a continuing professional development course for practicing pharmacists and nurses. So the original course design involved using a blend of online learning, so it'd be information like lectures about how to use warfarin, how to talk to patients, and so forth. And then there was an in-person clinical experience at the point of care clinic that I run here in Kitchener. So for 3 days, learners, after doing the online portion, would do a mini clinical rotation with me in person here. We did formal evaluation of that of the course back in 2017. And by far, the experiential training at that clinic was the most highly valued by learners. 90% of people said that was the most important part of the course. And we were able to demonstrate that clinical experience improved the confidence of those people who came to actually do those services in real life. But the shift to virtual training emerged from a need to make the course more accessible and flexible. Recognizing that students and pharmacists across various locations face challenges in attending the in-person sessions. Like, not everybody wants to spend a week in Kitchener. I can't believe that's the case, but we needed to replace the in-person clinical training with a suitable alternative. So none of the options in wide use in 2018, when we started thinking about this, seemed appropriate to me. Like, we thought about doing some role playing, maybe providing some extra case studies or things like that. But that wasn't satisfactory to my standards, I guess. So we went out and we partnered with Ametros Learning, and our collaboration led to the design and development of Teramos, an award-winning AI-powered virtual anticoagulation clinic. And I think Cathy's got a little video, just a 2-minute snippet to show you what we did together.
All right, bear with me while I do my magical screen share and try to get over to a YouTube video. So.
We have leveraged generative AI to revolutionize clinical training. Our challenge was to provide healthcare practitioners with essential skills to manage oral anticoagulation therapy under a medical directive. This involves mastering both hard clinical skills and the art of effective patient consultation. Our solution was to create a simulated experiential clinical training program. In the patient consult stage, learners navigate different patient scenarios, practicing professionalism and empathy while receiving feedback on the completeness of patient information gathering. Generative AI and AI logic layers allowed us to create a simulated roster of patients with unique personality traits, general knowledge bases, and specific clinically significant information the practitioner must extract during their consult. In the clinical decision stage, treatment plans are formulated by learners. Instant feedback is offered on every consult, made possible by using AI and leveraging the knowledge base of our expert and instructor, Dr. Jeff Nagge, who coaches and supports learners throughout the program. This innovative approach shows promise to transform traditional learning experiences by offering authentic, interactive spaces at scale where learners can engage in dialogue-rich experiences with patient characters. We believe we have raised the bar for how AI can contribute to learning and assessment in healthcare education and beyond. AI-driven generative clinical simulations represent the next frontier.
And I should just mention we submitted an application, or I guess U of W did, and asked our permission to do so. And this implementation actually won an award at the QS reinvention show in Dubai in December of 2023. In the category of best use of generative AI. So we're very excited about this project and what we're sharing with you today. Less about the project and more how we work together to get there, but still exciting nonetheless.
Right, well, thank you to all four of our panelists for taking the time to introduce themselves. I did just want to note that one of our projects is openly licensed and the other is not. So I know the Open Library, we tend to focus on open education resources, but at the end of the day, even if it's not openly licensed, it's award-winning, and the insights and the knowledge that can be gained, I think are valuable, regardless of how the final product is licensed. So all that said, I keep talking about wisdom and I keep mentioning how much insight our panelists have. So let's dive into that. And we'll start with our first question, actually. So both sides of the panel are going to have a chance to work and to chat about sort of what their knowledge and insights are and experiences. So our first question is, how did your team approach project management throughout the development of the educational resource? Could you share specific strategies or tools that help streamline communication and coordination between vendors and educators, ensuring a successful partnership? And the first to answer that would be Cathy and Jeff. So feel free to take it away.
Awesome, thanks. So it's a great question, and I think we'll probably have. It'll be interesting to see the two teams' representation of that. But I think, doing any sort of custom collaboration really starts with a defined and established process. So we have a very well established process for how we collaborate with a partner to bring a project from idea to reality. Certain phases, but very quickly we start with a planning phase, and this is about understanding requirements. We then define a statement of work. What are we actually going, what is the scope of work? We do preliminary design work. We come up with a schedule of deliverables. We figure out what things are going to cost. Once that's approved, we move into the design phase. Then there's a development phase, there's a testing phase, and then there's an implementation phase. All of this is followed by a quality assurance and quality improvement phase. So it's extremely well established. It's very clear on both sides what is our responsibility and what are the responsibilities of our academic partner. So we know all of this stuff up front, and then there's various levels of sign-offs all the way along. It's very important that people are aligned, agreeing to what you're doing, this preliminary design, this work, etc. So there's a lot of that. As part of sort of the upfront process, we definitely work to clearly understand, because sometimes there's multiple stakeholders. It's not just Jeff and I, or Jeff and the Ametros team. There's multiple stakeholders involved in the development of a collaborative project. So we really want to clearly define the roles. Does somebody have decision-making rights? Are they an input to that process, etc.? We establish what are the preferred methods of communication throughout a project and define those. What are the frequency of communication? Those are established and agreed to and aligned to. And then we figure out what are the tools that we're going to use to share information along the way as we do this. From our company perspective, all of our projects are reviewed cross-company. We have a meeting with all employees in the company every week, and every project is reviewed and discussed. And we confirm that it's tracking to the schedule that's there. So those are some of the thoughts and ideas of what we do from our end. Jeff, do you have anything to add to?
Yeah, so essentially, I would just echo everything Cathy said. Again, I always see myself in this as more of the idea guy. So as you can hear, Cathy's got all the detailed plans that come together and kept us on track. And it was more like, that's not my expertise, right? It's more to come up with what I wanted. But what I want to underscore from my perspective, probably the most effective aspect, all of those things Cathy said were essential, but I think the most helpful thing from my perspective as the educator is Ametros identified one particular individual who would be my contact person. So essentially that person stayed the same now since 2018. So anytime I have any issue with the course, and thank goodness it doesn't happen very often, but whether it's a development question or a production or a learner's having difficulty accessing, I've got one person to go to. And then that individual is also given the ability to escalate any issues that need to be up the chain really quickly. So to me, it was helpful. I knew if I had an issue, I go to one person, and probably within an hour, I was going to get a response. So I can't say how much that made my life easier with this. Again, it was really new when we started doing this. So I was quite nervous in our first offerings, but having that one contact person who could address my needs quickly was very effective in making it a successful project. So.
Thank you so much for such a fulsome answer, and I love that you call yourself the idea guy. I think it's a good role to have. So I will also pass that same question to Garima and to Leo.
Thank you. And you're gonna hear me say a whole lot of the same things that you heard from Cathy and Jeff. But you know, when a project starts with between two teams, you really are in it as partners. So it's very important to define the terms of partnership at the very onset. What we found useful, echoing what Jeff said, is to have a point of contact on both sides, right? So from Artha, there's always a PMP certified project manager who is assigned to a project. You know that this person knows who to reach out to when, you know, internally, if you need something, they will send you. You know, there is a whole sort of project management process that we follow. And then it was also helpful for us to have Leo on the side of the client, where we know that if there is a difference of opinion, if we need a quick decision, if we need somebody to sort of come in, then we can count on Leo to play that role. So having a point of contact on both sides, I think, is very important. Person who has the authority and the know-how to sort of move the project forward. And then having a good process in place. So vendors like us, we've done a number of different projects, right? So it is like, we do have a very set process in place, and that is made to help. So I'm just going to very quickly show our process. I think just will help to see the visual. So, and I wasn't planning to, just like, yeah, this is going to help. So it starts with sort of understanding the vision of our partners. Like, what is it you actually want from this project? What are your audience? What are you looking for? We'll try and understand that, and then start typically with your, okay, what is the context? What, you know, a little bit of needs analysis, going into storyboarding, then development, then translation and localization handoff, and then we give a 1-year warranty for anything. All of our projects. Now, what's interesting to note here is this is not set in stone. For example, in this particular project we did with Leo, it was, as he said, bilingual by design. So translation wasn't an afterthought. It wasn't like, oh, we're building everything in English and then we're translating them in French. We were doing this hand in hand together because of timelines and because it was bilingual by design. So the process is meant to help us and guide us and, you know, have the right sort of sign-off points here and there, but it's not anything that is not agile. And that's why it's very important to have that clear communication at the onset. Say, okay, this is how we're going to do it. Does this work for you? What changes do you need? How much time do you need for reviews? And then set those up. Tools are important as well, especially in something that's, you know, has aggressive timelines. And our team works on different tools. So we work on Slack and Google Drive and Teams and or SharePoint and whatnot. So we'll meet where you are, right? So in this case, we, again, at the very onset decided, let's use Teams as our platform. All the subject matter experts are there, our stakeholders are there, the clients there, we are there. and it just makes that communication so important and so easy. So that's just some thoughts from me, and I'm sure Leo has stuff to add on to this from his perspective. But great question, Siri, I have to say, because project management is such a crucial part of getting a project well done from start to finish.
Right. So yeah, I'm here to provide more of the client side of it as an educator. So it was, as we mentioned a few times, and we will say again, it was a very large endeavor, and it was complex as we had two languages being developed at the same time. So one of the things that I found important when we first started working together was that we set and established the roles very clearly and who would be contacted for what. And we had the small groups working on different parts, and they knew what each other was doing. But at the same time, we were not having everybody together in the same pod when we're messaging each other. So we knew each person was responsible for one specific point, and they would give the updates instead of opening for everyone and having like a messy kind of conversation. And also, there's one thing that from the side of clients as well, there's really important is that we came with a schedule very well set and delineated. And on our first meeting, we decided that that would not work with the way things would go. And so it's like, but it's okay. You know, once we had the roles well set and the communication and the structure of the project all laid for us, everything worked much better in the end on the way that we're going to develop it.
Thank you both for that answer. I'm hearing clear, open communication as the through line for both sides here. So moving on to our next question. So collaboration between vendors and educators or clients, regardless of what their role is, often involves navigating diverse perspectives and priorities. Can you highlight a specific challenge or obstacle that your team encountered during the project and elaborate on the strategies employed to overcome it? How did effective project management contribute to finding common ground and achieving shared goals? So today, or for this question, we're going to pass it to Garima first.
Thank you, Siri. Okay, so starting at the very onset, starting the project, we knew our challenge was going to be scope and timeline, right? Because we're building 5+1, so total 6 learning assets, big learning assets in 2 languages on 2 different platforms in 2 months. It was 2, 2, 2. And there were 5 subject matter experts that we were working with. Now, what happens when you start a project with a number of different stakeholders is, and I'm sure everybody can find something similar in their life, is that some people might have more experience building online courses and would come with pretty set ideas of this is how we want it. And some people would be new to it and they're like, I don't know what I'm expected to do here and what is my role, right? So a little bit of sort of, setting the stage, taking initial time to put guidelines together, to put ideas together, to put together a way of working together, I think was very, very important. And to have that mentality of agile when going into it, being flexible where need be. Another great thing about working with vendors is because we have a number of people on the team, we can expand that with additional team support when need be to meet timelines, right? So we feel like, oh, we need another developer on the team. We can do that. Having additional meetings with key stakeholders to understand, okay, if you're feeling or with particular subject matter experts, like, okay, if you're not meeting your timelines for giving us the source content, why is it? How can we help you? So just being sort of more aware, we brought in a Francophone ID because this was, we realized that would be helpful to move the project forward very quickly. So yeah, I think from my perspective, we went in knowing, and that is again important, is to be transparent with the scope, with the parameters of your project with the vendor, so that we can put in our best foot forward, bring the best candidates that need to be there on the table, and meet your needs.
Yes, and yeah, one of the challenges that we faced was not only everything that we already mentioned, but the fact that we had 5 subject matter experts plus eCampus Ontario as well. So we had at least 6 points of ideas, and everyone who was working in this project was very experienced. We had a stellar team for the subject matter experts, but in the end, we have to bring it all together and see what we can do. So whatever we were thinking about, we could get to the vendor and Artha in this example, and know what we could do with that, how things work, and also have the experience from their side of saying this perhaps will not work with this specific project, although it's a great idea. You can implement AI here and create some videos for that, but in this part of the project or in the project in general, this will not work as well because of the idea of the way that we're developing the learning for the project itself.
So thank you so much for such a fulsome answer. And I will also pass that same question off to Cathy and Jeff.
Well, I'm just sitting here in awe at the 5 subject matter experts plus eCampus that these guys had to deal with on that one. Holy cow! And the fact that you got that done in 2 months that's award-winning in itself. Congratulations. I'm fortunate because we were just working with Jeff as our subject matter expert in this project, but I think any collaborative project, you're basically starting, with the scope of what you're going to do, and everybody agrees this is what we're going to do, but translating scope into your actual finished product or application really requires both parties to come together and collaborate. In a more abstract sense, if the client wants X, and us as the vendor, we have to explain, the limitations of the technology, what it's actually capable of doing, and then together you work together to find that solution. And these aren't challenges that come up. This is just the inevitable way of how you move a project from a scope into an actual finished project. So I don't actually think of them as challenges or obstacles. I think it's just part of the process of how you work. But it's that coming together and being open-minded and communicating and finding the solutions together, understanding both perspectives, the needs versus capabilities. And I know when we were working on Jeff's project, an example of how this happened was we were working on doing the second interaction, which is the assessment between the learner and an AI-powered Jeff Nagge character. So they've done a patient consultation, and then they have to meet with Jeff as a senior pharmacist and talk about, based on what they've learned, what they should do with this patient in terms of dosage and frequency of when they see them again, et cetera. And Jeff wanted this to be assessed, and we wanted it assessed for grade. So we had to, talk about some of the limitations of the technology or the tech at that time when we were building this version of this tool. And we, ended up coming together and found a way to agree that we could base it on their attempt. How many times did it take them to get the right answer? And that in of itself, we would structure sort of a threshold-based grading to drive the grade. It's a perfect example of how we, through the process of translating what we said we were going to do to application, collaborating and came up with a solution. So I don't know, Jeff, if you want to add to that one or not, but over to you.
Yeah, so I kind of got that dig about, I knew exactly where you're going. It's like one Jeff Nagge's enough. I don't need 5 other of them floating around the room, but thank you for that, Cathy. So really what this did, honestly, working with Ametros has really helped me in a broader sense, kind of to remember that, technology solutions are rarely perfect, right? And I think from an educator, like when we're designing courses, we're designing it to our standards, and we have control over a lot of things, right? Like what content we're going to deliver, the method of delivering, and so forth. When you kind of bring technology into it, it creates a wrinkle. And like maybe the only perfect technology solution is my Roomba vacuum cleaner at home. I love that. That's perfect. Outside of that, virtually every technology kind of solution kind of has some flies in the ointment, if you will. So like what I wanted in the grand sense was to recreate the experience of a learner in a clinic with an experienced mentor there seeing patients. And I wanted the feedback from the virtual Jeff to be the exact same as it would be, constructive feedback, but at the same time supportive when necessary, right? So that's how it was in my mind. And so you're right, I was a bit disappointed when we couldn't exactly achieve that. We're getting close though. And so I think working with Ametros and developing this solution, this experiential training, I think it's really important to remember the whole concept. It's cliche pretty much, but to say that don't let the pursuit of perfection get in the way of doing good. And so what we came up with isn't perfect yet. It's getting there, but at the same time, it's vastly superior to what the alternative was. The alternative was we just don't do the experiential, and that's not going to work. So I think that's from the client side and the educator perspective. It's always good to keep that in mind. Is to don't if you can't get perfect, don't necessarily just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Give it a go, and there's always it's an iterative process that will continue to get better. So.
That's an incredibly insightful answer from both of you. So thank you for that. Moving on to our third, and this is our last of the prepared questions. So there will be time for Q&A after this round. So if you in the audience have questions that are ready and kind of percolating, feel free to get those ready in chat or prepare yourselves to raise your hand in Zoom. But while that's happening, please also pay attention to the answers to this last question. So successful collaboration requires a balance between creativity and structure. Can you discuss how your team maintained this equilibrium, fostering an environment that encouraged innovation while adhering to timelines and deliverables? Were there specific project management practices that proved particularly effective in promoting both creativity and accountability? And for this one, I will pass it to Cathy and Jeff first.
Thank you. So this is an interesting question as well. And I think it's actually very related to the last one that we just talked about. But from our perspective and our particular project, this whole project was about innovation. So I don't know if you're quite getting the story of this, but this project has iterated over a couple of years. We built the original virtual clinic back in 2018, I guess it was, Jeff, and then we redesigned it and built it for generative AI and launched that in March 2023. So there was actually 2 projects and all of our life in between that. But I'll speak to the most recent one because we'd been working with generative AI for at that time. So it would have been in the fall of 22. We'd been working with it for some time then and trying to figure out how to harness it and bring that in. But it was very much an R&D effort, and we ended up reaching out to Jeff and U of W and decided that we would integrate generative AI into the virtual clinic that we had designed for Moat. And it was a big step as you start moving from, as a tech company, moving from R&D into the world of a commercial project. It's a real balance between recognizing your dates and your timelines, because we had an implementation and we had a hard date that we were trying to keep, and the technology, which is totally evolving and changing as you go along. So it is definitely a process for us, but you balance it by saying, again, what's reasonable, how do we innovate, how do we leverage what we have and what we can do, but still respecting the timelines and what we're ultimately trying to deliver. I think for us is it just never ends. Our process and what I described initially as our quality assurance and quality improvement phase of work is how we work with all of our partners, including Jeff. So even though we managed to get this out the door and we hit our dates and we launched this in April of 2023, we've since iterated and found new ways to improve the assessment. And we just did some new work in the early winter of this year, January, February timeline. And I think we're launching it in 2 days, Jeff, a version with the net new updated assessments. So for us, it's a process, and balancing innovation and the timelines is just how we work it. I don't know if you want to add to that, Jeff.
Yeah, so this may, first of all, I forgot we're launching in 2 days. So of course now I'm a little bit nervous again, but no, I'm joking. But and this might sound like a funny answer, but I'm being 100% serious when I say this. I don't think Cathy likes when Bob, the other Robert Clapton, who's the other co-founder of Ametros, I don't think she likes when the two of us meet alone without her being in the room. Bob's an idea guy too, right? So Bob is the one who will tell me, hey, Jeff, Bet you want to know what's coming next. We've got avatars now. We can do it voice-based. You don't have to type. So of course I get really excited and think about all the applications. This is why Cathy likes being in these meetings with us to say, whoa, slow down there, fellas. Fine, that might be coming. Let's focus on this project. So I think that's kind of how we've struck the balance. I love it though, because by having someone say where this could be soon, again, I'm already planning for that way. But then remembering, like let's ground ourselves in where we're at now. So let's work on this project too. So that's how I've found the balance to be at Ametros, whether it's intentional or not. Cathy keeping Bob and I apart, but I really do mean it's great, because then as someone who likes to dream and think about where it can go, I don't know the technology as well, so I rely on the partner to let me know what developments are around the corner. So I found that very helpful. So thank you, Cathy.
And I will pass that same question off to Garima and Leo.
Thank you. So we're talking about the balancing act of creativity and structure, and that's a very interesting question to answer, because it is a balance. You realize when you come to a vendor for your project, it is still your project. You have a vision in mind, you have a plan in mind, that is your baby, and we're trying to build that for you. At the same time, having worked with a number of different organizations on a number of different topics, have some unique capabilities and ideas and thoughts around this, right? So a big part, again, back to communication here, is listening to the client for us, listening to the subject matter experts, and then sort of building that comfortable area where everybody can think about pros and cons of different options, brainstorm together and come with solutions that work within the budget, within the timeline, within the scope. And this is possible, this is not possible. A good example, and this is from a different project we're doing currently, in fact, with eCampus for University of Hearst, where they're building the rest of the content themselves, and they're only asking us to build a bunch of animated videos and escape rooms. And we're building these 2 escape rooms for them that supports, they're like, we can do everything else. This is something we don't have technical ability or creative time to do this. Can you guys take this over? So having that sort of partnership in a team together and building it together is helpful. Another thing that's really helpful is to have the right people on the team. So when we get the first sort of, call from you and we look at the project description, the first thing that goes into my mind is like, who is going to be the right person for this? For this project, for example, we had Alison Barron, who's joined us today. So Alison, if you want to add something to what I'm saying, please feel free to add in chat. And Zainab Fazal on this as lead instructional designers, right? The way we select those people to be on the team is like, okay, this is the requirement. I know this person knows this very well. They are great for the topic or for the platform or whatever. So to know as much as we can at the onset helps us to bring in the right team for the right project. And then just another thing that we do, because Siri, you asked about project management techniques, is our project manager will set up weekly status calls, as well as send a weekly status report to all the stakeholders, so that everybody is, it builds an additional layer of reference. So you can go back and say, oh, this is what happened last week, and this is what's going to happen this week, and these are my responsibilities, and if there is anything that is at risk, it will be highlighted there for everybody to sort of take note of. So we found that those things help bringing the structure, and while giving enough place for us to say, ooh, let's do something cool with this, and can we create something new here? Because that is our role, right? You have hired us to do something that you either can't or don't want to do or don't have time to do, and we want to bring that expertise to the table. Would you agree, Leo?
Yes, yeah, right. So one thing that I wanted to talk about, and it sounds a little counterintuitive, but there's the idea of discipline leading to creativity, and I think that there's some of it, a lot of it, in our project, because we, again, going back to the schedule, I just designed a beautiful schedule with colors and again chart and everything, and then we had to change everything after the first meeting, and it worked great because we took some more time to organize everything and create the structure. And afterwards, we sent after the subject matter experts knew what it was expected of them, the sort of content, the amount of content, and everything that they could do, they could go together, and we paired them up, and they started working together, creating and innovating. And then we will have these meetings every week and discuss things, and maybe trim out a few things. That was a really good balance that we had. That we had this 4 lines that you have to work within. Sometimes you would break things, but that is okay. And it was a very good way to develop a project and get to a point that was even better than my first vision for it was.
Awesome. Well, thank you to our all 4 of our panelists for answering the questions that I had set. But I recognize that we've also got a lot of people here who also likely have incredible questions. Not that mine were that good, but there we go. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you for that initial run of questions. So if anyone here has anything that they would like to ask, you're welcome to ask it in the chat. I can read it out on your behalf, or if you'd like to unmute yourself, you are welcome to do so. While you're thinking of your questions, I do want to give a quick little shout out. And this is just something that's here as a little bit of a filler while we let people kind of digest and percolate on their ideas. The Open Library is currently federated out to 17 of our colleges and 8 of our universities here in Ontario. So that means that you can actually search the Open Library through your institutional library. So if you are interested about learning more about our work to make OER more discoverable, please send us an email at open@ecampusontario.ca. It's a large number. You can explore so much. And that way you don't have to come onto our website. You can do it from the luxury of your couch and your institutional library. That being said, I do see there is one comment from Adam in the chat if I scroll up. So I'm going to just paraphrase. Adam, please feel free to correct or to step in if I'm not paraphrasing correctly. But basically, he's created 2 OER to make nature documentaries for his biology course, currently hosted on YouTube, and was hoping that maybe you could share some insights on ways to market and promote those resources so that they continue to gain traction online. So sort of largely speaking, do you have any advice or any insights on driving traction online, making sure that the resources are still in use and that they are constantly being used?
If I can go first, I first have to say, awesome! What an amazing number of subscribers and views to start with. So that sort of tells you that what you've built is valuable. What I would do is just look at, first of all, and extremely basic, but look at your SEO there, at YouTube with the description, the details, doing a little bit of A/B testing with even stuff like your initial sort of frame. And then from those YouTubes, I would suggest building shorts and putting those shorts in, because with the new YouTube algorithm, shorts do very, very well. So having small short snippets of your videos, and that would lead people to the main video. Those are a couple things that immediately come to my mind. I'm sure we have plenty knowledge here and people will have something else to add.
Can I go ahead and ask my question?
Yes, Monica, you are welcome to ask your
Okay.
question.
First, Garima, I think you've just inspired me. I might just start a YouTube channel. And if I send you guys notification, then please do accept that. So my question was, we are talking about how to best work with vendors. And I just wanted to flip the question and ask that as vendors, you're continuously working with different clients. Is there a specific challenge you face working with clients? And as clients, do you have any suggestion for clients for the smooth working? If you could just throw some light on that part. Is there a pattern that you see where there's a specific challenge with the way the clients work? And if there is some suggestion you have for clients to work, better with the vendors? Garima,
I'll
Cathy,
jump
anyone?
in. I'll jump in first
Uh-huh.
and just share my perspective on that. I think no two clients are the same, and we should never think that clients are the same because everybody's unique and everybody's different. But I'm a firm believer in planning. So I like sharpening my axe before I chop down a tree and getting alignment. So that doesn't matter who the client is. I think those two principles of taking time to plan and getting alignment from everybody on what that is, including, you know, deliverables and schedules and whatever those things are really critical. I think the one thing that didn't come out of our discussion, and it's a word that, you know, I think Jeff and I have used lots of times, it really comes down, these successful collaborations, there has to be an element of trust between the two partners, and so the relationship side of any collaboration is equally as important as the actual collaboration itself, and finding, you know, your common ground, finding ways to build rapport, finding ways to establish mutual trust will always set you up for success.
Yeah, thank you.
I just gonna echo that, and if I could just add on to that, because Monica, you asked about specific sort of what suggestions would or recommendations we might have for clients to work with us. I would just say, you know, yeah, it's good to come prepared. It's good to have done your homework and have your ideas, but also keep an open mind, come with trust, and, you know, the idea is to brainstorm and come up with something that is better than any of our individual ideas and have like a higher middle path. So that planning at the onset on how we want this project to look for might be a little different from what you had in mind, but it's going to be for the better usually.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
And Sadia, I see you also have your hand raised if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, folks. Siri, thanks for hosting and organizing and moderating this conversation. And thanks to the panel as well for all that they've shared. Love, made lots of notes on all these processes and how these collaborations work. I had a question for Garima, just to kind of build on the last question that Siri asked in terms of how you make selections of your team, like who works on what projects. I was just wondering, because I did have a quick look at your website, and so you have a nice little team there. How does the client have a say in who's selected or how that alignment works, or is it like it's from one person in terms of selection? Just wondering what that looks like.
So usually, you know, we would be in a better place to suggest who works on which project based on their current workload, based on their skill set, based on the requirements of your project. Now, many times what happens is the client would repeat work with us, right? And they've already worked with a particular instructional designer. They're very comfortable with it. It makes sense for the success of the project to continue the same instructional designer if the client wants them. So absolutely, we keep those requests in mind. Now, what might happen is that the instructional designer is busy on another project and doesn't have bandwidth maybe, right? But we will do everything we can if there is a specific request to meet that request.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So does anyone have any other questions? I'm seeing some stuff in chat. It seems that there's some advice on that YouTube component that's coming in as a reply. There's also quite a few links in the chat as well for folks that are interested in exploring a lot of the things that have come up today. So feel free to save that chat or click them and save them as tabs that I'm sure will, if you're like me, you'll have too many tabs after any given workshop that eventually you'll get to. So you're welcome to do that. But I just want to ask, does anyone have any questions? Again, feel free to unmute or type them into chat. So we'll give it a quick little time just for people to type really quickly or very slowly, depending on their typing speed. But I did want to take a few moments while we're waiting for that, if those come in, to say thank you once again. I'm realizing this is a very much so Valentine's Day themed workshop. We're hearing a lot about open communication, about trust, about being flexible and adaptable. So, you know, these are all things that I definitely planned to have come out as this Valentine's Day working with vendor panel. But nevertheless, there we go. I'm not seeing any more questions, and I've tried to vamp to give people time to type, but it seems that maybe no one is typing. So with that said, I want to say thank you once again to everyone, to our panelists, to all of our attendees for taking the time out of their day to come here and listen and learn a little bit. If you have any questions, again, feel free to send them our way at open@ecampusontario.ca, and we're happy to pass on questions as needed. I want to give a shout out again to both Ametros and Artha. Their platforms are available. They are vendors that you can work with. Their websites are there, so feel free to check them out, check out the projects that were created. And that's about it from us here at this panel. So thank you so much again. And that's it. I don't know. There's kind of nothing else there. So have a great rest of day to everyone. And I will stop the recording.